What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show. The Blazers tonight lose to the Los Angeles Lakers 112 to 121. The Lakers eviscerate Portland in the second half after Portland had a 25-point halftime lead. They had that 25-point halftime lead because they outscored the Lakers 45-13 in the second quarter, but the other three quarters were absolutely terrible. And we're going to have to go on a deep dive on the overall mental state of this team, and we'll listen to interviews later on in this thing. And we'll have a lot of dialogue just kind of surrounding this team because this was one epic collapse. Their second collapse at home this year of a big-time lead against an LA team. Of course, they did that earlier this year against the Clippers. But first, before we jump into our post-game show, remember, BetOnline. Believe 50% rewards, BLEAV. This postgame show is presented by BetOnline. You can get in on NFC and AFC championship action for the NFL coming up next weekend. And also, the Blazers, I think, have lost like 6-7 games in a row against the spread. Something insane. I don't know. Other than the Dallas games, this team has been it's been good to pick against them. So if you want to have some fun, use promo code BELIEVE with BetOnline. Okay, so Eric, how are you?
Well, this afternoon was incredible. Was trying to watch the beginning of the Blazer game on my computer while watching the end of the 49er game. The 49er game ends, obviously that was awesome. And then we go on a huge run in the second quarter and everything's fine and dandy. And then for some reason, the Blazers thought this game ended at halftime and didn't want to play in the second half, I guess. Didn't do anything. They got completely slapped in the face and didn't even bother to respond or cared enough to respond. And that's pretty disheartening to me. And quite frankly, I didn't think I could get into a bad mood tonight, but now I'm in a bad mood, and now we have to listen to all these people say blow it up and trade everyone. Everyone sucks. Anthony's the problem. Get rid of him, even though he's freaking great tonight. And I just I don't get it.
I'm still in a great mood, and I don't think anything on this post-game show is going to take me out of that good mood. The Niners winning today was huge for me. If you don't know, me and Eric are both Niners fans. But yeah, obviously it would have been nice to cap it off with this team playing like they did in the second quarter in the second half to win by like 40, but instead it's just an epic choke job. Shout out Hyperprime with the $2 dono, says FXCX with a facepalm emoji. I think the X's stand for a U and a K, if I had to guess. And he wanted the dono to go through. So thank you, Hyperprime. I agree with your sentiment. Let's just dive into the things here, man. This team is soft mentally. And this game kind of opened my eyes to the belief that I don't know how badly these guys are dying to win. Because when shots are going in, this team will D up. This team will get on these runs, and it's like, oh my goodness, look how great they are, right? But when they hit adversity, they respond terribly. And when they face pressure defense, when they face an intense defense, they completely fold. And that's why they've had all these stretches late in fourth quarters where they can't make a shot. And with the Lakers being down 25 at halftime, the Lakers came out in that third quarter and ratcheted up the on-ball pressure, ratcheted up the physicality, and the Blazers just absolutely folded. There was multiple times in this game where I saw a guard on the wing being face-guarded, and there was a perfect opportunity for a back cut. That's how you play an overplaying defense. But instead, it's guys that just kind of sit there. They don't even look to back cut. They just sit there and let themselves be taken out of plays. It's some of the silly turnovers. And then in the fourth quarter, you have some terrible shots at times. Jeremy Grant stops attacking downhill, shot a couple mid-range shots. You have Damian Lillard, I think 3 times there in the fourth quarter, just trying to flail up a shot at the rim to draw a shooting foul on a three-point ball. And it hasn't worked all season late in games. It hasn't worked in clutch time. It'll work earlier in games, but it hasn't worked in clutch time. And but then after the game, I didn't see it, but somebody said that Gary Payton II and Jeremy Grant were seen laughing it up with, I don't know who it was, Thomas Bryant, maybe, the guy who just cooked us, the mediocre center that just dropped 30 on us. And it made me kind of realize, this team doesn't really seem too serious about trying to be a contender. It's easy when everything's going your way, like it was earlier in the season. It's easy to have good vibes and, have fun. And a lot of times shots going in correlates with that. When this team makes shots, this team is fun. This team will play hard. When they start missing shots, when they start dealing with intensity and physicality, they mentally fold. And it was no more evident than tonight. And I don't really know what the fault is for that, but I think that's what this team is just soft mentally.
Yeah, and there's no way to sugarcoat this. Chauncey says they were going to play tough, says they were going to be physical, says they were going to be a team that no one wants to play, and it's the complete opposite of that. Chauncey has not done a thing to instill that mindset in this team. They just wither and die anytime the physicality presents itself. Pat Beverly made us look completely silly in this game with his pressure at the front court. An NBA team with a player doing what Pat Beverly was doing in this game should absolutely obliterate him. Just pass the ball to the middle and dive to the basket, and you would get either he would have to foul you or you would get a wide open shot from someone every single time. But we just stand there, dribble for 10 seconds and let him just foul us and just, do whatever the frick he wants. And Chauncey just stands there just watching, doesn't do anything. We have the worst mindset when it comes to this crap. And you can blame the coach or not for that, but Chauncey has specifically said that's how he wants his team to play, to be tough and don't stand for that kind of crap. And all we do is stand for that crap and let teams do whatever the frick they want. And I'm sick of it, actually.
Yeah, this team just doesn't have enough pride. And that's the thing. It's like, in order to be that team, you have to have a level of pride as a competitor. And if you choke a 25-point lead and you get cooked by this Thomas Bryant guy and you're smiling it up on the sideline after the game with him, that shows to me that you don't have enough pride as a competitor, because you just got absolutely punked at home in the second half by this guy, by this team. And if you're not pissed off about that, then you're not enough of a competitor. You don't have enough pride. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing, is Chauncey says all the right things and he struggled enacting it. We got to be better dealing with pressure defense because there's a lot standing around. But if you have a team full of guys that don't take pride as competitors, I don't know what you're supposed to do. I know a lot of people want Chauncey to yell at this team, to fire them up, but at some point as a competitor, you have to be able to do that yourself. You know what I mean? At some point as a competitor, you're a professional competitor, paid millions to compete, right? At some point you have to say, okay, this is enough. I'm not standing for this. I saw nobody on this team getting on teammates. I saw nobody on this team other than maybe Dame getting frustrated at the way this went down. It was just they were shell-shocked. It was they were like robots out there. And I don't know, if you have to have your coach instill a sense of pride in you as a competitor, then that's a problem. So, yes, Chauncey did not, I'm not saying Chauncey coached a good game or it's not Chauncey's fault at all, but I'm worried about how this team has choked so many games late in fourth quarters, and in post-game press conferences, we'll just kind of write it off. And I haven't read too much into that, but the way this game went down today, and the way I saw the way I heard a couple guys acting after this game, makes me worried. So I want to listen to every post-game press conference today, Eric, from every player and the coach.
Well, yeah, I don't really care about after the game until they get to the comments, when I know this is what Chauncey's going to say. In the second half, they just got physical and we didn't respond to it. I'm so sick of that freaking answer from him. I'm so sick of that. Dude, it's your job to make sure the team doesn't wither every time this happens. So whether it's his fault or not, he's got to get the blame for it, because this team is not doing what he's expecting them to. And is that buy-in? He couldn't get them to do what they were doing. Several players last year weren't buying in. I mean, something is not happening between the teaching of what he wants and the actual responding and execution of what he wants. So until that happens, I think it's fair game to question whether Chauncey is capable of getting the team to play the right way, because this is not how he wants to play. So is it just a problem where he's too inexperienced to know how to teach that? Does he not know what to do, or is he just not doing anything? Like, I'm not sure what the thing is, but ultimately in the NBA, unfortunately, with the contracts being guaranteed and all that, the coach is going to get the blame for it. I don't think he's going to be fired or anything, but like at some point he's got to be questioned why he is not like why his team is not responding the way he wants them to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a collective issue. I think it's fair to question anything with Chauncey at this point, but also if you're putting it all on Chauncey, I don't think that's fair.
Yeah.
So, I'll play the player side of it. You can play the coach side of it. In the end, I think we agree it is a collective issue because at some point as a competitor, as a player out there on the court, you have to have some pride. And it's also just basic stuff that this team should know. Like if you have the ball on the wing and somebody's down the corner and you're being face guarded and there's nobody underneath you, that's when you baseline cut. Like that's a basic basketball play. And it's a layup if done right. If the players execute it right. You shouldn't need Chauncey Billups to point that out to you. That's the thing. When defenses ratchet up their intensity as a player, like there's some basic things that you should know on how to handle that through playing all your life or, in high school, college, etc. And this team has failed at those basics when defenses ratchet up the pressure. And I don't know why. And it's baffling to me. And then our offense gets super stagnant. And it's like, yes, Chauncey has to figure out how to get these guys in something, because I've talked about at times in the past, like I feel like Chauncey's trying to teach this team how to play out of freelance situations, especially against playoff intensity defense. But they're not doing it. They're not getting any better at it. If anything, they're regressing at it. So at some point you got to try and put in some sets, and that can maybe calm this team down mentally, because this team hasn't responded well to those situations mentally. So I'm frustrated with that, but at the same time, when defenses play super physical and overplay the ball, they take you out of sets. You have to be able to respond to that well. Even if something's a set play or not a set play, if you're being overplayed on the perimeter, you got a backdoor cut. You got a backdoor cut, filter through, maybe set a screen on the weak side of the ball. You know what I mean? There's basic things that you have to do regardless of if it's a set or not in order to deal with pressure defense in the NBA, and this team absolutely fails at them. And it's not as simple as, just run a set, because that level of defense takes you out of sets. So I want Chauncey to try more because we've seen this far too much. But at the same time, man, I am just wildly disappointed with how these guys respond to playoff intensity defense. And at this point, I have no faith in this team figuring it out, because they haven't. They got home games. They're not winning them. They're even choking big-time leads. And if that's the mentality of this team more than halfway through the season, I don't see how that's going to change no matter what any one person does. Collectively, maybe they can change it. They need a players-only meeting or something. You know what I mean? But I sit here and wonder, do they care enough to have a players-only meeting?
Well, Dame never wants to have one, so that's not happening.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know Dame's labeled a great leader and all, but I don't know. Like, I think Dame's mad. I think Dame cares. I don't think you would see Dame smiling with the opponent after a loss like this on the sideline. But the problem is we don't have enough guys wired like that.
Mm-hmm. Let's get caught up on donations.
Yep, shout out to Will Upton. What's up, Will? With the $10 dono. Says, LaGoat, and then in parentheses, I'm so sorry. Will, aren't you a Rockets fan? What do you say LaGoat for? Yeah, we made him look like LaGoat today. We are the worst team in the league at letting opponents get to the rim, and they are the best team in the league at getting to the rim, so...
Great defensive game plan. Just let LeBron get downhill every time, full speed, going right to the basket. And if you reach in on him, it's a foul. If you don't reach, he gets right to the hoop, and it's the easiest buckets he's had in like 5 years. So, yeah, great game plan. to not let him get ahead of steam from the perimeter, and we just backed up and let him come right at us every freaking time. And then the one time he does, like Jeremy Grant took that charge in the first half. Second half, Josh Hart has perfect position on him. It's still, I believe we still had the lead, or it was a close game at the time. And Josh Hart, perfect position. LeBron shoves him, and they call a blocking foul on Josh Hart. And where's the challenge, Chauncey? Glad you got to the locker room with keeping your challenge. That great decision, man.
Mm-hmm. He has to challenge that. I mean, that was a momentum play because I think they scored on that possession too. I mean, if you're setting the precedent to your players that even if you stand still and you get ran into, it's a foul on you, that's not good mentally. Like, that should have been challenged just because of the type of play it was. Josh Hart stood in there. LeBron went right into him. Yes, his feet was moving a little bit, but it's not about as if his feet are moving. It's about who was first to the spot. Did Josh Hart beat him to the spot? Was Josh Hart going into LeBron, or was LeBron going into him? LeBron ran right into him. Yeah. His torso wasn't moving like at all, man. Nope. His feet were moving a little bit. His torso was in place in the spot. And LeBron just bowls him over, and they call a foul on Hart. And then Chauncey doesn't have the guts to challenge that, and that's showing you, like, okay, I just stood here, got ran over, and my coach won't even challenge it. What does that say for your mentality the rest of the game? Right? It's like, oh, well, I have to open up. I have to open the door, because if I stand here and get ran into, it's a foul on me. So then they open up the door, and LeBron has a parade to the rim, and then on the other side, I mean, I wasn't too happy with the refs in this game, but it's obviously more than just the refs. I'm not going to sit here blaming the refs, but they were allowed to, hold and hand check and whatever. And this team just mentally folded because of that. It was like, you can't play defense on LeBron. If he drives into you, it's a blocking foul, because your coach won't even challenge something that should have been obviously challenged. And on the other end, they're playing physical with you. They're allowed to. And yeah, I mean, that's a big part of the difference in this game. But you got to be able to respond to it. You got to keep trying to make those plays. If you pick up a bunch of blocking fouls on terrible calls, then okay, well, is it not worse to give up a bunch of layups at the rim for him? Or to collapse four guys because you get beat and then they're shooting wide open threes? I'd rather have a foul in that case.
Yeah. Well, too, for some reason, we decided to switch Dame onto LeBron in the second half, and he just backed him down and got into the paint anyway. It's like, I don't understand what we're doing, man.
Yeah, I mean, Grant needed to be on that matchup the whole time. I do think Hart, with his strength, obviously, like, height-wise, he's at a disadvantage, but strength-wise, Hart should be solid on him. But that's the problem, is, like, that sort of play. That was Hart guarding him, and Hart stayed in front of him, and got absolutely trucked, and didn't get the challenge call. So,
yeah, and I mean, yeah, I don't know, man.
Anyway.
On to the next one.
Yeah, Burp City 208, $2 dono says, shame a 5-year deal was given to an unproven coach. Yeah, I mean, but that was from a previous GM, so it kind of is what it is. I don't even know. That's the thing, though, is like, if these players don't have a baseline level of pride that they take as competitors, I don't know if any coach is necessarily going to fix this. Maybe they could do a better job, but if you don't respond well to intensity and pressure, and part of that is because you're mentally soft, and if I don't know any coach that can necessarily fix that by the time playoffs come around. And even if they fix everything else they have control of, if you're mentally soft against pressure in the playoffs, you're not going to win, and it's not even going to matter in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's still time for Chauncey to learn. Obviously, this team's not winning the championship this year, short of a miraculous trade at the deadline. So there's still a chance for him to be a good coach and use this year as a learning experience. And hopefully by the end of the season, he's better. But yeah, I mean, the part is, I mean, most organizations, if the coach is doing bad, will just fire the coach and then, eat the money. But I don't think Jody's going to eat the money either in this deal. So unfortunately, we're not able to do that probably either. So we're kind of stuck with him.
Yep. And to be fair, I don't think our old coach would have made any difference with this right now because he did not scheme well against pressure. He did not scheme well against traps. He wasn't a fiery guy. Like I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is why we should have never fired Terry Stotts," but this was these types of struggles is what happened under him too, and it's why the offense always regressed in the playoffs anyway.
Just because Chauncey's bad doesn't mean that Stotts wasn't equally as bad towards the end of the season. Like it's not,
we gotta try and find a good coach.
It doesn't mean just like if Chauncey was really good, it didn't mean that Stotts was bad early in his tenure here either. Like it was time to move on from Stotts. It was time to get a new coach. I like the fact that they went with someone with high upside to this point. I mean, I don't see how you can say it's worked out. Like I said, I still believe that it could in the future. But yeah, I like if we hire a respected retread coach, short of maybe Mike Brown, who's doing a great job in Sacramento, who's someone that we both talked about wanting before. I don't think any other retread would no coach would have been good last year with Dame hurt and the team trying to lose on purpose. And then this year, I mean there's been plenty of games where like we've gotten good looks in the fourth quarter to win games, and we just haven't. And we got lucky early in the season that we were hitting some of those shots, and that's pretty much as simple as it comes down to. But unfortunately,
that's my whole thing is. At the start of the season, we were having fun, so it was easy to play hard, and it wasn't as difficult to respond to tough stretches. Now it's completely mental with this team, and I don't know how they get out of it. But that's the thing; it's like we were really good late in games to start the year. What's Chauncey doing differently now that he was doing at the start of the year?
Well, I think this is the problem. Other teams now know, because at the beginning of the year, teams weren't expecting how good of a fit Jeremy Grant was going to be, or Anthony and Dame, that it was hard to guard both of them. But as teams have shown ways to maybe go about it, and this pressure thing where you be physical and you pressure us, we haven't adjusted at all to that. So we're still trying to play the same exact way, thinking that's going to win. But we all know that in the NBA, you have to constantly get better and improve and adjust, and both within a game and within a season. And I feel like today we just thought we were playing so well at halftime, we didn't even think even if they adjusted, we would lose this game. And unfortunately,
that's a soft mental state too.
Yep, that's completely soft. Yep.
We've choked enough leads that nobody in that locker room should be thinking that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing is this team gets all, head over heels when they're up, right?
Yeah.
And then they get slapped in the face, and it falls off the rails. So I truly think the mental state of this team is just not where it needs to be. And I don't think it's a Dame problem. I think Josh Hart's a competitive dude. Jeremy Grant, I kind of question how much he wants to win. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's hard to even.
Questionable.
Peyton's questionable. That's the thing is Peyton was supposed to be the guy that made it so we didn't have these issues, could come in and set the tone from an energy standpoint and an attitude standpoint. He is not the answer there. I've heard and seen enough that he's not the answer there. And only plays 17 minutes tonight, and him going from probable to out multiple times so far this year, you can't rely on him to be the heart and soul of anything, because, I don't know, you can't count on him to play on a night-in, night-out basis, it seems like, and he's always banged up, so this team needs to reshuffle the deck at the very least, and it could be as much as trading Gary Payton away at this point. I'm not completely set on keeping him like I was. But it's hard because it's not even necessarily any one guy. It's just collective things. Some of it is skill set. Ant had a couple of times where he just was not strong enough handling the ball or initiating the offense. But also you got to run some action to make it easier at the same time for them to initiate something instead of everybody standing around and Ants trying to throw to Dame who's standing still. So that's where it's a collective issue. Some of it is skill. Some of it is just kind of the mental state of these players. Some of it is Chauncey. I don't think it's any one thing. Everybody always wants to make one thing out is the problem and focus on that one thing. Mm-hmm. But this team has so many different problems that I don't think it's as simple as it being Chauncey's fault and Chauncey needs to go, or, Dame's fault and he's not a good enough leader, or Simon's fault because he's not, good enough or whatever. It's everything.
Yeah, a little bit of it, too, might be, we're approaching the trade deadline now. and there's obviously rumors about certain players and things like that. So this is a tough time for some people, especially if they're not super solid in their position on the team, or if they're wondering where they're going to be playing in a couple weeks, because it's not a thing where a lot of these guys can determine that. Like other than Norm and CJ, I guess last year, were allowed to pick where they wanted to play, but outside of that, typically these guys don't get to choose that. So as we come up here, it's on the trade deadline, maybe after the trade deadline, like, I don't know, maybe the mental state can improve a little bit, but I mean, that's not an excuse. I don't think that should ever be an excuse, but I think it's definitely weighing on certain players' minds right now.
Yep. Absolutely. So, next dono was Shaggy Squid, $5 Australian dono. Chrono said in the offseason we ain't contending this year, just figuring stuff out. Next year is the year, but we still need to do better than this. Yeah, I mean, I don't like going into the mindset, going into a season thinking, oh, we're not going to be good enough. That's just the wrong mindset to have. I also don't think next year is necessarily the year, because this team has a long ways to go, and it's hard to even figure out what the problem is because there's so many. It's not just one thing. But yeah, I mean, you gotta get guys that want to win. Like, that matters in the NBA. And even if guys are super talented, man, it's like Jeremy Grant at times, I don't talk about it much because I feel like I might be overreacting, but at times I feel like he kind of coasts on both ends. And he's not. I
agree, but you're free to
you don't think there's times where he kind of coasts on both ends, where offensively he just settles for a bunch of mid-range crap when he should just put his head down and go to the rim. Defensively, he's like not fighting through a screen, not boxing out, not grabbing boards. I mean, it's not just him, but
I mean, he doesn't rebound anytime, so it's hard to tell that. Fighting through screens he's not good at, whether he's trying or not. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't. In the first half of this game, he was attacking the basket almost every time.
Mm-hmm. Good Jeremy Grant. Yep.
But like, I mean, he's so talented and so big. Like, I understand why he settles for mid range sometimes. It's just everything's working when he drives to the basket. I wish he would do it more, but when he does drive to the basket, he is putting his body on the line. He hit the floor several times and things like that. I mean, that could take a toll throughout a game. Keep doing it over and over.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. Part of this is like he's the guy after the game, supposedly smiling and not upset about this loss. And his, he's kind of a laid back guy in general. The thing is, the Blazers have too many laid back guys. Ant's laid back. Grant's laid back. Shaden Sharp's laid back. Right? Like, I don't know. Like, I would love for this team to have a Draymond Green. I don't know. Like, would you see Jeremy Grant dive on the floor? Would you be surprised or not? Like, if Josh Hart dives on the floor, I'm not surprised.
I would be surprised, no. But
yeah, I mean, to your point, I just don't like how he's smiling after this loss. I don't like that. I hate that. I'd be pissed. Everybody else is pissed. Look at how this fan base reacts, Eric. I wish this fan base cares more about losing these games than this team does. Like, I read chat and I read, my group chat on Twitter, and I read what people are tweeting me on Twitter, and people are in shambles. The fan base is devastated right now. I wish the team was kind of held that same sentiment. But I don't feel like they do.
And anyways, as to the donation, thanks, Shaggy Squid. I freaking hate that, man. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. It's Cronin's fault. He signed Gary Payton. How much he knows? No one's freaking bothered to ask him that. How much he knew about the injury. He knew Nas had the core surgery, and they were set up a roster that was reliant on him being healthy at the beginning of the season. They signed Drew Eubanks as the backup center with no one else, that unquestioned, no competition, nothing. He's the clear-cut, promised him backup center role. He's the one that did not give Chauncey a better option than starting Hart at the small forward. He's the one that traded for Winslow. He's the one that hard capped us so we couldn't trade Eric Bledsoe's contract or whatever. He's the one who did like pretty much everything, like the whole bench. He drafted Sharp. Still think that was the right decision. But he basically set it up to where Sharp has to be really good or our bench sucks. So I just don't like giving him a pass simply because he said we weren't going to be good. This team should be good. It is good. We have a group of players that should not be freaking 12th or 13th in the West or whatever the frick we are right now. Like, this is not that bad of a team. And you assembled most of these guys. You got rid of the people you said were bad apples. Chauncey said he has his guys now and they're going to play his way. I don't see any of that crap. So, I don't care what a GM says. He has to do something about it. So, unless he fixes things at this deadline, he's basically just giving people a lame excuse to not criticize him, and I don't like that at all. He is just as much as fault as anyone else for not having a good bench and for not signing better players for minimum contracts and avenues that he could have had this offseason.
Yep. Shout out to Dennis Fan, $2 donut, says fire Billups, trade Nurk. Nurk struggled the last 3 games. That hasn't helped, but every player goes through slumps, and we should stop overreacting to it. I went on a whole rant last postgame show about people overreacting to Anthony Simons being in a slump, and today he's 12 for 27 for 13 from 3, 31 points. So much for that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think trading Nurkic is going to fix anything. Eubanks was good tonight. Eubanks played better than him tonight.
The first half, yeah.
I wish, I could say that more often. Eubanks had a really good first half. I was actually impressed. Not just, the energy and whatnot, but it was productive energy. He was in the right spot more often than not. And Nurkic just struggled, but that is what it is, Guys on this team aren't consistent, and a lot of guys in the NBA aren't consistent. Shout out to $2 dono. Drono says, can we all acknowledge this bench's cheeks? The bench lately hasn't been playing worse than the starters for the most part.
It was 16-2 or something in this game. Yeah. And then it wasn't the bench that came out flat at halftime and got destroyed at the beginning of the third quarter and blew most of the lead.
That's been a theme with this team too. It's like they're not coming into halves mentally ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that is. Maybe, Chauncey has to have them mentally prepared, but also as a competitor, you got to be ready to go yourself.
Yeah.
You got, and it's like it's an energy thing at the start of these games, and it's like guys aren't tired, so what's the issue? Are you just not ready to battle?
Mute That Bozo said it did look like Chauncey was kind of chewing out Sharp a bit when he came out of the game for the last time. Yeah, I saw that, and Chauncey, because there was a time where Sharp caught the ball in the corner, was wide open, pump faked like he always does, and then drove in, and I forgot what happened, but he missed a shot. It was questionable whether he got fouled or not, but he missed. He tried to hang in the air and missed the lay-in. And Chauncey said, he grabbed him and he says, "Shoot the mother effing ball!" like he's like, "You have to effing shoot that." And like, so
is that what people want? Yeah, like, is that what we want?
But
chat?
I mean, he's only like that with the young guys. Like
Yeah.
that's part of the problem is like he's not doing that to anyone else. But I'm not saying that's what he has to do. But like, Hart, where's that for Hart? Because like Hart did that in this game too. Like I don't see him yelling at him the same way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like that was the one time I saw Chauncey doing something. But like, it's like your rookie who shouldn't even be that instrumental to whether you're successful or not on the court, and we're relying on this guy to be as good as he was earlier in the season, and I think that's completely unfair to him.
Yeah. By the way, please don't spam the same stuff in chat. Okay, we have a rule against spamming the same stuff in chat. Shout Sydney Garcia, $2 donut, says it's time to move on from Nurkic. I mean, Nurkic played 16 minutes in this game. He struggled on both ends, but I mean,
I got in foul trouble again, and
I got in foul trouble. He did not have a good game. But I don't see how moving on from him necessarily fixes anything. And what are you going to get? Every center in his tier is inconsistent and has stretches where they play like this. So what do we do? We give up Nurkic and assets and then have a center that has the same lulls, and then what? Then we're stuck in the same situation, right? So that's the thing, is a lot of people think other centers are more consistent. A lot of other centers are just as inconsistent. Or it would take a ton of assets to get them, which using it at the center spot doesn't make a ton of sense. Anyway, thank you, Sydney, for the $2 donut.
We always take Nurk's side. He slows our offense. Let his ass go. How is saying Nurk was terrible tonight taking his side? Like, what? Yeah. You guys are just hearing what you want to hear. Like,
let me just say this. Yeah. If you have let him go for what? If you're sitting here like, oh, we just got to let somebody go, that's usually not the best case. Like, if we lost Nurkic for nothing, that wouldn't help the team. So what are you getting? But the thing is a lot of people have this grass is greener mindset where they don't realize the struggles that other players will have. So they think that they're better, or they think that they'd be an upgrade. Like, if we find a way to get Jared Vanderbilt or something, everybody has this like huge opinion of him and how good he is. We'll get him after the honeymoon phase is over. I feel like he'd be a type of guy that would frustrate this fan base because he's not consistent. Like, and it would take an asset to get him at the very least, if not multiple. So that's the problem. Is it's not as simple as just getting rid of this guy or getting rid of that guy. How are you building the team up? Tearing the team down doesn't help the team get better. How are you building the team up? Where are the issues and how are you building this team up? Because, yeah, Nurkic struggled today, but the bigger issue is that this team is soft mentally. The bigger issue is this team mentally folded. With or without Nurkic, that wasn't a Nurkic thing. It was a collective issue. So how do we fix that issue? Because if you're going to mentally respond to pressure, defense, and adversity in this way, it doesn't matter who you got on the court if you respond that way. You're going to get punked. So, yeah, it'd be nice to have a Draymond Green or somebody out there that you could go out and get, and he's not going to let this team respond that way. But, I mean, he's not gettable, so who else is like that? Can you insert into this locker room? But that's my thing, is a lot of people just want to make it about get rid of this guy or get rid of this guy or fire this guy or fire that guy. It's a collective issue. I don't think any one thing fixes it, so it's kind of tough, but...
All right, so Beef Stew, I believe the Pistons have the worst record or second worst record in the NBA. And Nerlens Noel, who hasn't been in a rotation on a
Noel
good team
sucks.
in years, and Mo Bamba, who is on one of the worst teams in the league and is out of the rotation and not even playing right now. So those are his answers at center. Like, yeah,
That's my
incredible.
entire point about the grass is
Yeah.
always greener
Yeah.
with other centers. Like we got Gary
We
Payton
don't
the
have
second, and
pace.
we. What's
He
up?
said those guys can keep up with our pace. Nurkic can't. We don't play with pace that often.
Even
And when we
Nurkic
did,
is out,
when
we
we did,
don't.
we freaking killed it tonight in the second quarter. Yeah.
Trust me, the center, the last guy who should be handling the ball is not the guy that's causing us to not play with pace. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, but that's a bad take. If you're blaming our big man for why we don't push the ball up the court with the dribble, then I don't even know what to tell you.
How am I not telling the whole story? This is Toria's point. Like, you guys just fantasize that these players are good because they're, like, potentially. It's the same thing with, like, some of you with Cam Reddish. It's like, oh, we get him and all our problems are solved. Like, no, they weren't. They
I
aren't.
mean, last year it was like, if we had Gary Payton II and Josh Hart, all our problems would be solved. Well, we got both those guys, and our problems aren't better. Grass is always greener. So I'm not saying this to defend Nurkic. I'm just saying you guys overrate a lot. You guys overrate a lot of centers. And Nurkic is not to blame for us playing a slow tempo. That's just silly. Like, how do you play with a fast tempo? You got guys that get the ball and run, or you have a center that will get a rebound and hit the outlet man. Nurkic gets rebounds and hits the outlet man, and then the ball gets walked up the court. Trust me, if you're blaming the center for why we don't play with pace, you are misguided. This team didn't get out and run because you had Drew Eubanks getting this team to run.
There was a possession in this game. It wasn't the end of a quarter. It wasn't a 2-for-1. It wasn't like draining the possession. There was still like 2 or 3 minutes left in a quarter. And Josh Hart stood with the ball for like 10 seconds trying to wait for Dame to come get it. That's not anyone's fault other than we just are not playing fast. Oh, it's just, man, like I don't get it. And the solution isn't to trade for worse players. Like, you don't trade, like, we're not saying that Nurk is greater than or like the best center in the league or whatever, but trading him for worse players does not make sense.
Okay, we got this dude in chat saying, how does Jokic, he's saying Jokic increases Denver's pace, basically. And now he's asking me to explain how Jokic increased their pace. Well, you're the one who's claiming that, so why don't you make a case? But you're talking about the 2-time MVP. You guys are tripping. He's slow too. The only thing he does is throw outlet passes, but guess what? If you got a guy streaking up the sideline for an outlet pass, then you're going to get fast breaks. If you got a guy that goes into the backcourt and stands right next to where the rebound was and you're just standing there for the outlet pass, you're not going to run. It's on them.
That happened in this game. Dame drove to the basket, kicked out. I think it was Nas who shot a 3. Sharp just stands there. I forgot who it was, leaks out. I think it was Schroeder. Just leaks out to the other. No one gets back in time. I think LeBron gets the rebound and just throws it down. That's pace. I don't know.
Yeah. So
that's how you get pace, no matter what your lineup is. But
yeah, I mean, your big man is not responsible for your pace. Like, that's just absolutely crazy to me. Ciao, Brian Tadovich Ardona says Nurk for Wendell Carter Jr.
I mean, Magic aren't doing that. Why would they?
Yeah, they're not doing that, and I mean, Wendell Carter Jr. is not consistent either. So,
and since you told us to go to Basketball Reference and look up lineup stats, Denver is 21st in pace. So I don't know what the frick you're talking about, man. like at least bring facts if you're going to like try to say that like, oh, Jokic is good. They're good at pace. Like, they're 21st in pace, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So
look at it. Yeah, look at Jokic's effect to be the 21st fastest team in the league. That's cool.
Yeah, like I know you want to make it about Nurk. Person in chat, I know you want it to be a Nurk issue that can be solved by just getting rid of Nurkic. Probably because you just want to get rid of Nurkic and have convinced yourself that that'll fix our problems. So you're trying to attribute certain problems to him that aren't fair. My guy, if you're blaming our center for why we don't play in transition more, you are misguided. Either take my word for it or don't, but if you don't, you're misguided. I mean, that's just the truth. Like, I don't understand that take. I don't want to spend too much longer on this argument, Eric. I mean, that's just a bad take.
Yeah. And I mean, okay, if we could get Jokic, if we could get Embiid, yes, 100%, go all in for one of those guys. I am completely on board with that. Improve our pace that way. That's cool. But like, I mean, outside of those guys, I'd maybe put Bam in that group because he would transform our defense, I think, with how switchable he is. But outside of that, like, there's not many centers that are going to just improve our team because they're faster. And if that was the case, like, pretty much everyone that's been mentioned that's realistic is a backup. So get them as a backup center instead of Eubanks, and then play them more and play Nurk less. I'm fine with that. Like, that's fine. If you want to do it that way, then it would be obvious that Nurk is the problem if that's the case. We don't have to trade Nurk to find that out to get some of these players that you guys are mentioning.
You guys, a lot of transition and fast break opportunities aren't 5-on-5. Like, somebody's like, oh, he's the slowest guy, he's the last guy down the court. Okay, so what? That doesn't make a difference. A lot of fast break and transition opportunities are like 3-on-2s or 4-on-3s or 3-on-3s or 2-on-2s. Like, you don't have to have all 5 players to run the court. So, go ahead.
How did small ball work out tonight? Did you see that?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't good. I mean, that's the thing. This team lacks physicality, and it's like Nurkic our most physical player, but we need a skinny Nerlens Noel who's old and washed. I mean, he's not that old, but he's not even in rotation. We want all these finesse bigs, right? We don't respond well to physicality, but we want finesse bigs. That's the solution. I don't really understand it. And that'll fix all our problems? Anyway, good old chat. I knew chat would wild out today. This is probably the most comments we've had in a post-game show chat all season long, and we are 49 minutes in. This has been a blur of a 49 minutes, though. Anyway. Shout out Near012, member for 29 months. Says, chat is wild, lol. Thank you, Near0, appreciate it. Yeah, do we have any moderators in here? What do we have moderators for, Eric? For nights like these, do we have a single moderator in here?
I don't know.
Because this is when we need a moderator. But that's why we have like 5 of them. Where's Trevin? Where's Jackson? Where's Zach? Where's Connor? Might have to add a mod that's actually here. Where's Aeromancer? I don't think any of them are here. Anyway. Devin, you have a good chance, yeah. I mean, we might have to discuss it, but now everybody wants to be a mod. Anyway. Thank you, Near012, for being a channel member 29 months. Where do you want to go with this? I don't know. I don't even know. Like, I'm just not anywhere near as upset as anyone else, and it's just hard to even, like... It is what it is, you know? I don't know. I've been chilling. Niners won today. I've had a good day. Second quarter was a ton of fun. I was having a great day then. Now it's just a good day again, but I can't relate, really. I don't know.
There's Jackson.
We finally got Jackson in
Hey,
here?
Jackson.
Nice. We need a moderator, Jackson. My chat's behind, too. Chat broke chat. I don't know. Like, do you think this team... Like, what... I don't even know where to go. Like, do you think this team will fix its problems? Do you think this team is capable of fixing its problems? Do you think it's just a matter of trading for a couple guys? Like, what's next in your mind?
I do think, sometimes when you're in a funk, making a move can help. Like the best example of that is the Nurk Fever run where we trade our starting center and get a first round pick, and that person we bring in ends up being better. I don't know. I do think we need to mix it up, whether it's that. For all the people, I saw this a bunch, like, Chauncey's an idiot for taking out Nas. Like, you guys have to realize that Nas is on a minutes restriction right now. He can't play more than 6 minutes at a time, or he's not supposed to. So he literally had to take him out when he did at the different points in the game and couldn't play him anymore right now. And they're going to be patient with him, just like they're, not pushing Gary Payton too many minutes either. But I think
that's the thing. Let me just make a point on that. It's crazy because I've pointed out on Twitter, in our group chat, on streams, Nas is on a minutes restriction. Like, he just came back from injury. And it's like, I know people have heard that, and they still want to get mad at Chauncey when he subs him out. It's like, he's on a minutes restriction. You're mad at the coach for subbing out a player who's on a minutes restriction and not playing him over his minutes restriction. But we've been mad at the coach for overplaying guys this season anyway, when it's like, oh, he doesn't care if he plays Dame 40 minutes. So when he's listening to a minutes restriction, we're going to get mad at him? Really? That's the point we're at now? I don't understand that. Anyway, keep going.
Definitive one, I just want to ask what your end goal is with your comments. Like, I mean, it's getting kind of lame at this point. Just, yeah.
The sarcastic.
Yeah. I mean,
yes, yeah.
That's all your comments are now. It's like, come on, man, you're better than that.
But
anyways,
too, so.
I mean, who knows if making a move even works or not? But I mean, this team does need defense and shooting still. I mean, those things definitely need to be improved. I still think the bones of a good team are there. I think you've got, 3 elite efficient scorers, and there's no way their offense should struggle as much as it does at times. I just told you what you did.
What? Yeah, anyway.
So yeah, it's I mean, I don't know. Like, this team is, no team is really, but the problem is, like, some of the other teams are starting to figure it out. Obviously the teams at the top are starting to separate. They're running out of time to make it work this year, but I mean, in the Dame era, they've always gone on somewhat of a run outside of the tanking year, for like post All-Star break or right around the All-Star break. I think there are ways to improve the team and get that if that's what you want. I think you can also legitly make the case that you just let this team sink if it's sinking, and if they don't play their way out of it, it might not be the worst thing in the world. But I don't know. I just it seems like the same people who say we were never going to win a championship are also the ones mad that we're not in position to win a championship right now.
It's the people that can't handle. Yeah, they've been saying we're mediocre all year long, but yet they can't handle the mediocrity of this team.
Like, they don't even have to tank right now. They're tanking without trying to tank. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. And they're not gonna. I mean, unlike last year where teams tanked, but it wasn't like it's going to get crazy this year towards the end of the season for teams that get eliminated for the playoffs. Watch how all this stuff happens with teams trying to put themselves in the max position to get 14% chance at Wemby.
Yeah. I mean, he'd obviously fix a lot of these issues, but there's a dono. Shout out to the Energy Warning with the $2 dono. Says, bummer L, but why were we rolling so hard in the second quarter? A, we were getting stops. Stops were leading to runouts. Mm-hmm. Runouts were leading to buckets. So that means we're getting it done on both sides of the floor, and we were hitting like every three. We like hit everything. In the third quarter, like we weren't getting stops. We weren't getting runouts. And then when we did get an open three, they weren't falling. Like Shaden Sharp got multiple open threes, missed it, lost confidence in his shot. You saw Chauncey get mad at him. Nas had an open three, missed it. I think there's a couple other open threes that were missed during the third, early fourth. And yeah, I mean, everything looks great when you're making shots. Everything looks terrible when you're missing shots. It's all the stuff in between that, though, that I try and focus on. Because, sometimes you won't hit shots and you'll take good shots. Sometimes the other team will hit tough shots. Like, that's a big part of the NBA, but it's all the stuff in between that matters. So, it was mostly defensively we weren't getting stops. I don't know. I think lack of physicality was a problem in this game in the second half. They were much more physical than us, but they were also allowed to get away with more, I felt like. We didn't move the ball as well, but some of that was the physicality of their defense.
Well, we took care of the ball in the first half. We let them get out and run in the second half.
Yeah, we had like 4 turnovers at halftime. We finished with 11.
The Jester had a stat at halftime that we went zone 11 possessions, and they were 2 for 11, settling for mid-range and weren't getting to the rim. They're one of the best teams around the rim in the NBA. And second half, I don't think we ran zone once. So that's kind of confusing too. We let them get in the paint anytime they wanted to, and then they started hitting threes after not hitting any. But we didn't really – I thought the game plan in the first half was pretty good to force them into long twos, and it was working. And then for some reason, I don't think they really even shot many twos or had to shoot long twos at all in the second half.
Yep. Shout out Brady. Or no, shout out Brian Tadovich Ardono says, are we stuck with Cronin? Yeah, Cronin's not getting fired this year. Chauncey's not getting fired this year. I would be shocked if either happens. I would expect them in Portland through the offseason. So all the fire Chauncey stuff, fire Cronin stuff isn't really productive. It's kind of pointless. But thank you to Brian for the $2 dono. Then Brady Sieg, $2 dono.
And
go ahead.
I mean, as much as I, have complained about Cronin in the past, like, he still could pull off some good moves here. I think he definitely does stuff. And, we have to keep Grant, right? we have to keep him. We have to pay him, assuming he wants to be here. But, other players like Hart, free agent, if you're not planning on paying him, you got to get some for him.
Yep. And then shout Brady Sieg, $2 donor says, I can't say that word on stream. I accidentally did. Thanks, Brady. Says, if you had to predict the rest of the season, I'll paraphrase. If you had to predict the rest of the season, what would it be? Thank you for the $2 dono, Brady. We get into the play-in somehow. We make a trade and... I don't know if we win in the play-in. I still feel like this team's going to be like the 8th seed or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my prediction, which is what I said at the beginning of the year, 8th seed.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. If we make a trade, get a shooter and some defense, Nas gets healthy, move him to the starting lineup, Peyton's able to play a little more. I do agree that we could push into the first play-in / maybe the 6th seed. Outside of that, there's if he doesn't make good moves or he downgrades the roster somehow at the trade deadline, if we trade Josh Hart for Grayson Allen or something, we might not even make the play-in.
Yeah. Actually, maybe I don't expect the 8th seed because I kind of expect Cronin to screw up the trade deadline somehow and we'll be like the 9th seed, 10th seed, losing the play-in, keep our pick, have the same issue next year where we can't trade our future first. Yeah. We will watch the interviews, just not right this second.
Dame was limping at the end of the game. Gary Payton was grimacing when he walked off the court once again. Yeah, I don't know. So I haven't heard anything. I've looked
There was a
at all
troll in
the
chat spamming
yeah
2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks,
yeah.
and
I've
also
looked at
insulting people. I banned her or him or whoever.
I've looked at every Blazer media Twitter. There's no thing about Dame injury.
Yeah, it's BS. So yeah, don't come in here and troll like that. It was time for that person to go. Pineapples and whoever else said it, Joshua. Yeah, I saw Jez defend me on Twitter. Yeah, I mean, because that was a commonly known thing, is that you can't use defensive and offensive rating on the season to evaluate individuals correctly. I've been defending it on Twitter a lot lately and had a lot of people fighting back against it, and their arguments just aren't the best. So it was cool to see Jez respond, though. Shout out Damani with the $1 dono. Thank you, Damani. And then shout out Joseph Niedermeyer with the $2 dono. Says, how'd we go from feeling like a contender to this? I don't know, man. I mean, I'm never going to get too high on, a 4-0 or a 10-4 start. But also this team overachieved a little bit, I guess. I don't know.
But they're not as bad as this either.
Yeah, this team is just all over the place, which honestly, the only way you have a team this inconsistent, because we looked like a contender in the second quarter on both sides of the floor. We looked amazing. The only way a team is this inconsistent is if there's some sort of mental element to it too. Because if you're in the right mental space consistently as a team, you don't have such wild swings. We were mentally right at the start of the season. Now we are mentally screwed. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the problem is, they did so well in the clutch. The other thing is, Shaden Sharp was unreal shooting the ball. Mm-hmm. At one point, there was a stretch for a couple weeks where he was shooting like 70% from the field or something like that.
Nas was like 50% from three.
Yeah.
Grant was like almost 50% from three.
And then Nas goes down. Winslow goes down. Sharp can't hit a shot for like a month plus. And honestly, and then the starters go through stretches in the fourth quarter where they lose winnable games because they can't hit a shot either. I do think it's still a problem with depth leading to fatigue because there isn't enough depth and Chauncey has to rush players back in. And like tonight, it was obvious Sharp was hurting us in the fourth quarter, but like he had already played Dame most of the third quarter, so like he's trying to buy him a couple minutes to rest so he doesn't have to play the whole second half. And it's just like a snowball effect. It's like it just keeps happening over and over, and they can't get out of the funk. And I feel like if they just pulled out a close game outside of beating crappy teams that they've beaten, or because they ended up blowing out Dallas, so it didn't really come down to crunch time the first night, and then the second night they don't have Luka. I just feel like against like decent teams and better, they just haven't. They've lost their confidence and mojo against those teams, and unfortunately, I was hoping that would have been Chauncey's biggest strength as a coach, especially if he struggled with X's and O's early on, is that getting that tough mindset that you never back down, you're never out of a game, you're always competing, you're always playing tough, and just unfortunately we haven't seen that so much.
Yep. Anyway, we can listen to interviews whenever, I guess. And I don't want to go too long tonight. Yeah.
So Shaggy Squid was asking about the Jeremy Grant extension. So for those of you that don't know, we can, through the rest of the season, we can offer him 4 years, $112.6 million, which is roughly $28 million a year. that offer has been on the table since January 6th when it was um, able to be offered to Jeremy. Um, I think at this point it's pretty clear that Jeremy's going to, or has decided that he wants more than that. So, yeah, we're gonna have to pay him. I don't think he's gone or anything. I think he wants to be here. And if he was gone, they better trade him if they have some indication that he's not going to be here. They should. We haven't really even considered that, I guess. But yeah, everything I've heard is that they're committed to him being here, and he's committed to being here. So yeah, I don't know. But he can make double that in the offseason if he waits with the 5th year. I don't know if the Blazers are willing to offer that or not, but yeah, at some point in the last few weeks, he decided that all of a sudden money was important to him when it hadn't been in this decision process at all.
So we overpay him, and then what? I don't know, man. I'm not exactly hopeful in the roster part of this thing. Mm-hmm. Anyway, yeah, let's listen to interviews.
Okay.
And that'll be the stream, I guess. We're streaming twice tomorrow too, so we'll have a stream on our second channel, Blazers Uprise Live, link in the description box below, and then we'll have a post-game show tomorrow because we play again tomorrow. Quick turnaround. All right, that's tomorrow, right? Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Yep, Spurs tomorrow. And we're 9-point favorites. I heard.
Yeah, I mean we got the Spurs and the Jazz and the Raptors, then the Hawks left on this home trip. I mean we kind of need to go for it though. I don't know. We need to win. We need to win at least 3. Like if we're serious about making any sort of run, we have to win at least 3 of these next 4 games. And that's the thing, is like maybe winning 3 of these next 4 games will get this team a little over this mental hurdle. I don't know. Like, but then again, this team is bad enough where I shouldn't even look ahead. Because in February, it's not necessarily easy. You got Memphis, Milwaukee, Golden State, the same Lakers team at home. OKC's better. Washington twice.
Dross isn't a good thing. He hasn't accepted that contract yet. 100% no. Because it means we're going to have to pay him more in the offseason, or he's walking for nothing. Those are the only 2 outcomes by not signing that.
Would you consider trading him and like trying to because it's a seller's market, trying to make that somebody else's decision and trying to get something maybe even better there or something similar? Like, I don't know, like say Siaka became available.
Yeah, I mean, if we had to trade him for Siakam right now, I think you have to consider that.
You do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we'd have to add more to the deal. But overall, yeah, well, I mean, take it for what it's worth. But from what I've heard, him, like, the organization doesn't view him as tradable or whatever. I wouldn't say untouchable, but like he's part of their long-term plans. He wanted to be here, forced his way here. There's not many players in his position that he was in last summer that would choose to come here over several other options they could have had. I think it's just an unfortunate thing when you're a small market. You don't get many guys like that. So when you ditch them the first chance you get or whatever, like it's just tough, because then, like the next person that is deciding that Dame could be saying, come play with me. And then they'll be like, well, you said that to Grant and you guys traded him half a season later. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right answer is, but from everything I've heard, Dame and him are still in it together, and do want it to get it done together. Grant still wants to win here in Portland, still wants to be here long term. And that hasn't changed at all.
I don't even know what we should add. Because that's the thing is, it's like, oh, God, I don't know. This seemed confusing me. I just want to listen to Chauncey. I want to stop thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know, dude. I don't know what the hell is up with this team right now. Anyway, you ready for Chauncey?
Sure.
Okay. Let me go on to my ad-free account.
To you, what was the biggest difference?
The start of it was we just allowed them, to just impose their will. But we started the third quarter pretty much like we started the game. We started the game, said they jump out on us. But we called timeout and we changed a few things, changed the tide. Ant made some shots and we got back in the game. But that's not the way you win, but just shot making. You got to win on the defensive end. And I just thought the way we started the third quarter, it just cost us. It cost us.
Do you feel like you're reaching them?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that, when we get in these type of situations, most of the time, it's, to me, a lack of experience in the situation. We have a lot of veterans on our team, but we also have a lot of young guys. But we don't have a lot of, real, this was a playoff type atmosphere. We don't have a ton of real playoff expertise and experience. And that's what this was tonight. And it's been that way for a couple games, several games, obviously. But
okay.
The Lakers suck.
Yeah. I mean, I did make the point that this team sucks against playoff intensity, but I don't think it's due to a lack of experience. And the Lakers suck. Yeah, I mean, I don't like that answer, man. Because you're talking about problems that have been an issue in the regular season, right? This is the regular season right now. If the problem with the Blazers having this terrible stretch in the regular season is because of a lack of playoff experience, then what the hell would happen if we somehow made the playoffs?
Right. In a play-in-one game or done scenario.
What are we talking about here? It's just a cliche. He doesn't even... I don't even think he believes what he's saying. He's just kind of oh, you get through this interview.
I mean, they've won, 4 of the last 15 games or something like that? So that's been that way since... the middle of November that we've been playing playoff games for some reason. We somehow, after being 10-4, then all of a sudden these players were like, wait, we can't be this good. We don't have any playoff experience. We got to start wiltering in these moments. That makes no sense, bro.
I don't even think he believes what he's saying, dude.
Oh,
I don't know.
But I mean, this is what I'm saying. I just... Because usually he says the right things, and you can kind of understand what he's saying, but man,
that's the worst answer of the season I've heard.
Dude, at some point we have to question whether this guy can coach or not, because he's not proven. So I think he's maybe starting to crack and show that he's a little in over his head.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's not
tough.
He doesn't want to win or he doesn't want this team to be good. I absolutely believe he does. I just don't think he knows how to do that.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's tough, but the first quarters and first halves of every game, you see teams get off to these big leads. Those things don't mean anything, because it's a game of runs. And they started to smell blood, and LeBron just kept attacking. We was out there a little vulnerable, and then became a game.
What types of things tell you that?
You want to say something?
Yeah. So why didn't we threw that weak, crappy double team where the person comes from across the court, and by the time he gets there, it's too late? But how come we didn't jump any screens or get the ball out of LeBron's hands if he's going downhill and attacking every time? Why did we just let him do that?
I mean, we did it. We tried it a little bit late, and this team wasn't ready to
Every
execute
time we
it
did,
either.
it was the person coming from across the court out of
Yeah.
position, not the person involved with the screen. You can't just like if someone's standing there dribbling without a screen, you can't send a double at him like when you're LeBron or Luca. That's the like Terry Stotts trap against Luca, and it got destroyed every time. But like, you have to find a way to get the ball out of his hands up top if he's killing you on those. And like we were going over screens on LeBron and letting him get a lay into the basket and having no help defense close to him enough to where he couldn't get that first step and get going downhill.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
You are reaching the team, that your message and that what you're trying to teach and get across to them is they're listening and processing.
Yeah, the fact that they compete, that we just compete the whole time, I'm really big on that. And as far as like what we do while we're competing, it's tough. It doesn't always, we don't execute what we try to execute most of the times. And I'm pretty sure most coaches can say that. But the fact that they compete, when we talk about things, they a lot of times try to get it done. I think our lack of experience just it rears its head a lot of times.
So I would substitute lack of experience to be softness. And softness in terms of like this team doesn't like physicality against their offense. This team doesn't respond well to it. This team struggles at like digging in and getting that key stop, right? Just like the tough things. I don't know if it's due to a lack of like trying to, compete or a lack of effort. I think it's more so this team is just soft mentally because you take them out of their comfort zone and they don't respond well. And I don't think that's necessarily due to them not trying to do the right thing or trying to make the right play. I just think they... But then again, what's the reason for that? Like, they just struggle. They just struggle. Like, when they're taken out of their comfort zone, they are terrible.
I firmly believe this. I've been saying it all season. When you have that attacking mindset like the Lakers and LeBron had in that second half, it breeds that. It makes you tough. It makes you like, I'm going to go in there and attack the paint and get to the basket and score. I don't care who's stopping me. That attitude, then that like festers through the whole team, and that becomes your mindset. When you sit back, that's why I never like drop coverage on defense, because it's just like you're like just letting the team that you're playing dictate what they want to do. And that's why I've been screaming at the beginning of games, we get off to bad starts. Why not come out with some aggressive trapping zone or some sort of like super hard hedging defense? And
we did against Dallas the first time we played him, and look what happened.
And Luka had his worst game of the season, right?
And we easily won.
And so like that's where like I agree with Chris Branlin in chat, and he says like, no, Chauncey, that's you that doesn't have experience in these situations. So like, see, this is my problem is you can't expect a team to be tough or react to physicality or pressure well if you're not also asking them to pressure the other team and be physical with the other team and stuff like that, because then it's just finesse, and you're hoping finesse outdoes physicality and toughness and stuff. And I don't think that's how anyone wants to play, including Chauncey. It's just like I feel like this is where, instead of like yelling at the players, I feel like getting them to play both up tempo. Like the second quarter was super fast paced, up tempo, getting the ball up the court quick, getting open shots because of it. And they started hitting threes, right? And it was like pushing the floor is a form of aggression, like pushing the ball up the court. Trapping is a form of aggression. Like it doesn't always work, but when you have that built into the game plan, then if you also have players that like, okay, I gotta press up in this situation. I gotta do this. It just like becomes more natural, in my opinion. And at this point in the season, we should be seeing that progression to being a tough physical team, just by default, because of all the things and good situations that Chauncey has presented throughout the season. And I feel like instead we've kind of gone the opposite, where we just kind of go away from those things and we just let other teams do what they want, and it's become an issue.
Yeah, but I just don't understand, because it's like
because I don't think it's an effort issue. I don't.
Yeah, but it's like other teams can play the type of defensive coverages we play, but they don't become as soft as we do. You know what I mean? Like the Bucks drop a lot, right?
Yeah.
But they are like in attack mode constantly offensively. So it's like, I do agree we are better when we run a more aggressive defensive scheme and like take it to teams like that. But that's where it's like, it's a bigger issue than just that. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. It's just like, it's more than that, because otherwise other teams would have the same problems at the same rate, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, New York Blazer fan has a good point. You know, when you have lack of depth and you're like smaller at some positions, it does wear you down physically to be.
I mean, that's what I'm wondering.
But like,
it's size.
But then don't say it's experience. Like, you know what I mean? Like, then don't like give some BS answer.
I mean, but we said like, oh yeah, we've lacked size, and Cronin said he was planning on balancing out the size thing. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's necessarily the backcourt. It's like, when was this team the best? Who do they have? They had Al-Farouq Aminu and Maurice Harkless as forwards. Those guys weren't good, but they were big. You had a big small forward, right? And
you had depth on the bench.
And you had depth and size off the bench. And I'm somebody that thinks people overrate size and whatnot, but when a team gets physical with you, if you're smaller than them, it is harder to deal with it.
Like LeBron shot over the top of Josh Hart, you know, like that.
Yeah.
But like if you know, Hart was on the bench with Gary Payton, like I don't think it's that big of an issue, you know, like short of like what he did tonight, where it was Nas and Gary Payton as our power forward center for a few minutes. Like short of doing that, like I believe that, yeah, maybe having some more physical play, like I don't know if that's the answer when Justice Winslow comes back or Nas starting or whatever, but like maybe it's as simple as that. But until we have more depth on the bench and have, you know, more physical players that are bigger and stronger and stuff, I don't see how it'll make that much other than just like shuffling things around and hoping to get different results.
Yep. Eric also says excuses. How does Beverly deal with it? Does he get all soft? I mean, it's not any one thing. I'm not saying you can't, you know what I mean? It's not any one thing. It's a collective. It's like there's so many issues with this team. There's probably a bunch of different stuff that feed into them, and that could be one of them, is just like lack of size. It is harder to deal with physicality, but also it's a mental issue, but also it's a coaching issue, but also it's, you know, it's a collective, it's a problem with a lot of things that feed into it, is the point that I'm trying to make. Shout out Dro for the $2 Drono, says Schmel blood, because Chauncey said that. And then Damani with the $5 dono, thank you Damani, says this is the interview that does it for me. He's killing me right now. We held the ball at the top of the key for 10 seconds, most plays in the second half. Yeah, absolutely. But it was like guys weren't even trying to get into anything. B, there was a couple times they had the ball at the top of the key and somebody off on a wing being overplayed and he should have back cut and he doesn't. C, you know, there's a couple times where like Ant just struggled dealing with the pressure to even initiate anything we were gonna run. But then yeah, the guys standing off the ball, like it's a big issue. At some point, I want players to just step up and like try in those situations. Just like, why isn't, you know, somebody like trying to bring the ball up against pressure and call a set and initiate it, right? Why aren't guys cutting? Why aren't guys trying to set screens off the ball for each other? Why is like all our players not doing anything and our coach isn't doing anything? Like, that's where it's like I can't just blame Chauncey, because shoot, just play basketball. You're not even playing basketball at that point. You're just standing around and letting them punk you. And that's what this team does.
Dude, there was a play where Schroeder got all up in Ant's grill, and like it looked like he almost like dribbled over and back.
Yep.
But then they called a foul on Schroeder, and frickin' Schroeder and Beverly celebrated at half court like they won the championship, and he committed a foul on him.
Yeah.
But that's like their mindset, you know? Like, yeah, you bugged the crap out of him. You almost got a backcourt violation. You almost got like an 8-second violation. You almost got a turnover. Like, who cares if you foul? Because like you completely took him out, and now he's like you're in his head and all this stuff. And yeah, and as People's Mix says, they were down 17 at the time, I think, and
Yeah.
and they're sitting there celebrating like they won the game right there. And honestly, looking back, they probably did, because we can't handle that kind of play from another team. Like it just I don't understand.
Yeah. One more thing before we listen to the rest of the interview. Ant's never been the best ball handler. Plus, he's laid back, which I don't think is a problem. But in situations like that, there's times where he almost looks a little shooken by intensity or by like guys that act like Pat Bev do, or you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead, whatever you're gonna say.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick on that point. But Dame was in the game. Hart's in the game. Like, why aren't we letting Hart bring the ball
Absolutely.
up instead?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
But like
why
has to be better.
No, absolutely. But I just don't understand. We know he's not the best. He's not great at it. Like, CJ struggled early on in his career with that too. He couldn't get the ball up either, and became much better the more experience he got. But when the game's like slipping away and stuff, like, why aren't we letting our secondary ball handlers bring the ball up and letting them run off the ball so Beverly and Schroeder can't do that to us?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Sharp will be the same way too. Like, Sharp is just not anywhere near a good ball handler yet, and he's kind of laid back, and is like, how is he going to be a guy that responds well to that? I don't know. That is one of my worries with Sharp as a long-term prospect, is can he handle the ball at a high enough level? And then when guys are trying to punk him, because it's like, if you're going to be a star, you're going to get guys like that on you. Do you respond with that killer mentality?
Mm-hmm.
Do you rise against that? And I'm not sure. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if Sharp has that sort of mentality. And I don't know if you can develop it.
Yeah. Well, it's not necessarily developing a mentality, but I do think you can improve a lot against pressure. I don't think it necessarily you have to be like a punk or anything, but yeah.
Yep. And then shout out to Ellie A with the $112 dono. That's huge.
Wow, thanks.
Or I think
just
that
L.
Yeah. Thank you for the $112 dono. Says 4 minutes into the first half, 18-4 LA. 4 minutes left in the first half, 42-56 Portland. First half palindrome. Second half was not memorable. Portland plays scared and checked out. It's on Portland that Beverly was acting a show pony at the end. Acting like a show pony at the end. Yeah, thank you, L, once again. That's a huge dono. Appreciate it. Thanks for making our nights better.
Thank you so much. But I mean, like, that's what happens. I know Dame, like, talked back to him and stuff. And the best thing, you know, ultimately is to win the game and shut him up. But, like, he literally got in their heads and caused problems to where they could barely bring the ball up, and that's not
that's soft.
You can't do that and then like not adjust or not like I said, just put like Jeremy Grant or something right at the top of the 3-point line, right in the middle, right when you get to half court, throw him the ball and then just sprint to the basket, and Beverly would have to hold you, or he's going to get blown by, and you would have fouled him out in like 5 seconds if he continues playing like that. or like, I don't know, exaggerate the contact and get calls every time he reaches on you or shoves you with two hands in the back like he did several times, like he's playing post defense at half court. And like, just get him out of the game and be like, yeah, that was dumb that you just took yourself out of the game. So yeah, it's I don't understand. We just continue to dribble the ball up slowly, like let them pressure him. It's just perplexing to me that we saw that for an entire half and no adjustment was made.
Yep. Anyway, let's listen to the rest of this interview. We still got like almost 6 minutes left, so.
Chauncey, I know you're making subtle adjustments all the time.
Yeah.
Game and between games, but you've been in this rut for quite a while now. Is there something more dramatic that you feel like you need to do either with lineups, personnel?
There's a lot of things that you think about, that I think about, our staff that we talk about. We kick things around. We'll be continuing to talk about it. Obviously I'm not going to expose those possibilities, with you guys before I talk to my team and my guys. But, of course, when you're in these type of ruts, you're always looking to kind of shake it up and see what's out there, what we could possibly do. So we'll see, man.
Not a Orlando game, you guys began to stretch a lot of home games to make up for the lot of road games you played. Now you're 2-4 at home in 6 of those games. You're 13th place now. Do you feel like this is kind of slipping away? You're 4 games under 500 for the first time.
Well, I don't know about slipping away because I feel like in the Western Conference, any good week you have, you can jump. Everything is kind of close.
But we need a
However,
good week.
There's some urgency that I feel like we should be having, right now. Being at home, most people think that you're just gonna win, and it don't happen like that. I felt like tonight, we got in a position, the team started making a run, their team started making a run, and then we started playing not to lose the game instead of just play to win, But again, though, we haven't been in that position a ton of times, to actually know what to do, So it's tough.
You said that they're competing, you guys are competing, and then just said there's not urgency. So to me, those kind of sound like they should be the same thing, right? Or are they not?
They probably should,
Great question.
But the thing is, again, like, we in positions out there a lot of times, Bill, where we felt good. You talk about urgency. When we got down in that first quarter, the way that we played to get back in the game, there was urgency. The fact that we did it again in the third quarter is unfortunate. And teams are not going to just continue to let you do it, but the fact that we didn't show the same urgency, it sucks, and it's the things that you got to try to teach and coach and keep going over and keep, but that's kind of where we are, let's just face it, that's where we are. A lot of the losses that we've been having, they hurt. These are bad losses, but that's where we are, and we just have to get better. I got to get better. I got to keep coaching, keep teaching. Our guys got to get better. But that's just where we are. Let's just face it.
Okay, what's the difference between urgency and competing, though? He did not answer that question at all.
He avoided that one for sure.
So, yeah, I mean, he's just speaking BS in post-game press conferences at this point, and like, it's not even stuff he believes because he's contradicting himself, and then like he gets called out on it, and he like doesn't even know how to explain how he's contradicting himself because he's contradicting himself. You know what I mean? Like he's so. Does he? Is that if that's really what he thinks, then that's scary.
Yep.
Because he thinks this team is competing but not showing urgency. What does that even mean? What is the difference? So what are you telling the team then? I hope it's just like he's just giving press conference answers. I pray that that's what it is. Because if not, that's really bad.
What's on 19 says, guys, he's not speaking BS. He just doesn't want to throw his guys or coaches under the bus.
That's what I'm hoping.
Well, but I don't know.
Because, like, if you were up there, I mean, answering these questions, I mean...
you don't have to... But, like, his answers are causing these questions, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when he says, I thought we competed well, and then someone's like, well, how did you compete well when you start bad and then you compete well for a while, and then you come out of the third quarter? Was that good competing in the third quarter when you lost a 25-point lead? Like, was that competing? And he's just like, I mean, that's not like not throwing people under the bus. That's just him.
Yeah.
Like, trying. Yeah.
That's about as bad as it gets. Like, that was. I'm having flashbacks to like 2.5 years ago right now, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Adam Smith asked, wasn't the whole thing putting an address on it and accountability? So. But now you're not going to.
What has happened to Chauncey? What has happened to this team?
Is
there like something that we don't know of that is going on with this team? Maybe in the locker room or with, like, what? I blame Gary Payton II for not playing earlier. If he just played earlier, we would have kept up the good vibes, right? And we would have been fine. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, shout out Bob and Weave, $5 dono says, CJ and ET, despite their flaws, would have bodied Beverly into the sideline if he was mocking Dame like that. Nobody like that on this roster besides Dame. I think Josh Hart's like that.
Yeah, I think Eubanks would too.
Yeah. And I mean,
Nurk would stand up from,
Yeah. Outside of those four, we got a lot of soft guys on this team. So, anyway, thank you, Bob and me, for the $5 dono. Shout out to Monty with the $10 dono. Says, I don't like our offense under Billups. Still too much one-on-one. Not enough ball movement. Not enough getting downhill on ball screens. Very low back cuts. It's killing me. Zero off-ball movement. Thank you to Monty for the $10 dono. I agree. And he preached that stuff in the past. Now he's not even really preaching that stuff, and his answers make no sense. And I'm very confused as to what happened. And, yeah, I am starting to question him, like, big time. I'm not sitting here freaking out and saying we need to fire him like everybody else. But I'm definitely questioning him right now because these answers make no sense. The offense makes no sense. I'm just not going to sit here like chat doesn't put it all on him because his players got to step up. But I am questioning him. This is just not a good interview so far. So we still got another 2 minutes left to see what we get into.
So in year one, you kind of identified that, okay, we don't have dogs. We don't have guys that give the effort. I think you guys have solved that.
Mm-hmm.
So now are you saying we need to get more talent, or are you asking people to be patient as these guys get more experience?
I'm gonna let y'all do all the writing, and I'm gonna let y'all do all of that. Y'all see us fighting every single night. Y'all see what we have. Y'all see what we don't have. Y'all do all the talking. But you know one thing about me, I'm gonna be riding with my guys. Period. No matter what. We win, lose, or draw. We down 25, come back and beat. I'm riding with my guys. Until that changes, until those guys change, or until whatever happens, I'm riding with my dudes. So y'all can do all the speculating. Write y'all stories about what we need, what we don't have, what I'm doing, what I'm not doing. It is what it is. I'm riding with my guys, though.
That was his most confident answer of this entire press conference.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like a moral thing that he was standing on. No problem with that, you know. I like that. But you could tell the change in his voice. Did you hear the change in his voice? I'm doing exactly what he's saying, speculated, say what he's doing, say what he's not. But man, he all of a sudden he sounds confident when he
I feel
says
like
that.
they're like, I've always hoped or thought this would never be the case, but it's almost like they're letting like the negativity of the fan base creep into their heads,
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, Nurk deleted his social media, or deactivated it or whatever. Like, these players do, see stuff that's said to them and about them and the coaching staff too. Like, that's why I've gotten to the point where I try not to freak out at everything like the rest of this fan base. Like, I'll sit here and criticize certain things that I see, like, oh, this is going wrong, whatever, but it's mostly just like, okay, well, this guy's not making this cut, or this guy's not doing this, they're doing this wrong. A lot of people are extremely over the top in this fan base, and it kind of sucks. Like, it kind of sucks, but I guarantee you the franchise sees that. And if you think that me saying, a lot of people in this fan base are over the top, if you think it applies to you, then there's a solid chance that it does. If you know it doesn't apply to you, then everything's fine. Like, but you see the chat in here, and it's like, it's just, a lot of it's legitimate. There's a lot of stuff, too, though, that's completely off the rails. And if these guys are reading it, A, they shouldn't be. But B, it might affect them, man. I mean, that's why I try and just be logical. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, okay, I do think the answer he gave is better than like Kevin Durant's answer earlier in the season, where he's like, "Do you see the starting lineup I'm playing with? What am I supposed to do to win games with this?" Like that's, he can't say that, right? But like, it makes sense if we're talking about how this team is soft, that they would let stuff like outside things that matter nothing start to bother them too, and then it, like, so I do feel like that answer shows that they're getting bothered by some constantly being questioned about it. And I don't even think like media has been hard on them at all. It's mostly been, on social media and stuff. So so I do think he's trying to stick up for his guys, which is fine. But at the same time, it's kind of showing why this team is soft, I think, is because he's doing it like saying, I'm going to ride with my guys, but he's not like saying, this isn't the problem. Like, I'm going to fix this, like he's just saying, I'm going to ride with them, like whether they're soft or not. So like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they need to not be as soft, but also I think a lot of people in this fan base need to gain a little bit more perspective, because there's just a lot of crazy stuff. And I say, like, oh, this fan base will say this crazy stuff. I'm not talking about the entire fan base. I need to make that clear, obviously. I'm talking about a select group of Blazer fans that just, everything is the end of the world, and everything is the worst, and everything is horrible, and everything, I mean, I've been getting arguments in the past day with people that say Anthony Simons is basically horrible at everything except for shooting threes. Like, that sort of stuff is a little frustrating. But that's the thing, is any criticism I have, I will try and back it up with facts, with logic. Like, I will try to make it a logical based criticism. It's fine to criticize the team. I'm never ever would be against anyone just criticizing the team. I've been very vocal criticizing the team. But there's a difference between criticism that's based on something and just completely going off the rails and over-exaggerating any negative thing regarding the team. There's a difference between those two things. So, some people don't understand the difference. That's fine. But
Bob and Weave once again is giving Cronin an excuse that he just has to say that the team's not good enough, and that gives him a free pass that it's not good enough. Like, I don't understand that. like, so the GM can do a crappy job, but as long as he says, "Don't worry, I'm doing a crappy job. This team is crappy. Don't worry about it." Like, so then you're just gonna say, "Okay, he said it was crappy, so why are we mad that it's crappy?" Like,
Yeah.
Like, why aren't we questioning why it wasn't not crappy? You know?
Yep.
No, that don't try to say that's not what you're saying. That's exactly what you're saying. You're giving him a pass by saying the roster wasn't good enough, man. Like, that's all he that's all he says, and that's what people say. Like, no one said the roster was good enough. None of you were saying that after 14 games through this season that this team was going to be the 13th seed. Instead, it was the exact opposite. You were saying, "How, Eric, you predict them to be the 9th seed, idiot. Look at them now," right? You know, like, every one of you that's now saying that and giving Cronin excuses was on my case about not being high after preseason on him. Torrey was actually one of the highest people on him after a horrible preseason.
And I still had him as an 8 seed.
Yeah. But, like, this is a case where, okay, he doesn't get a pass for saying stuff. Otherwise, Olshey said a ton of things that he should probably get a pass for. That's dumb too. Like,
Well, Cronin was too confident, so it's just having something different.
Because he's a nice guy.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, no, I see so many people say Cronin said it was going to be a multi-year process, so it's fine. And it's like,
but like,
why? Why does that? Like, why? He has to accumulate assets. Like, he just said that to cover his ass.
It was apparent early in the season, if he would have had a better bench where the starters didn't have to play major minutes. Chauncey has said this many times that the team was tired. People have talked about not having their legs after road trips and things like that. If it had a shooter off the bench or someone who is a threat to shoot that could space the floor, if they would have not gotten hard capped, if they would have not signed someone who was injured and needed a core surgery that could have been likely months to come out, and then that kind of stuff. Like, some of those are hard to predict, but there were things that were obvious early in the season. If Cronin would have done a better job, then we're not talking about this kind of stuff right now. And so, like, I don't want to hear that, oh, he said it wasn't going to be good, because it should have been. Like, we should be better than we are right now. So everyone has to be blamed.
Yep. And we don't have an elite. I don't think this coaching GM duo will ever be elite. Because if you have an elite coach and GM, you'll be able to find your way to contention, because you'll be able to put a roster together, you'll be able to develop that roster, and you'll be able to coach them through things. Like, that's really, honestly, the most important thing in a franchise, is just having both of those, right? And as 49er fans, we have both of those, in my opinion. Like, sure, you could still criticize Kyle Shanahan for some things, but he's widely regarded as one of the best coaches in the league, and John Lynch, you could easily make the cases the best GM in the league, if not one of the top 5 or so as well. So as far as the Niners go, it's like, I'm not worried that they'll find their way to where they're trying to go, because at the top, you got guys that can put together a roster, can find diamonds in the rough, can develop diamonds in the rough, have, creativity with their coaching, can game plan, that sort of thing. That's what this team needs to find, and they didn't have it before. Neither the coach or a GM was elite before. Neither the coach or GM are looking elite now. And I don't really have a ton of faith in either being able to get to that point anymore. I still think Chauncey could be fine, but, I mean, this organization has to find... I mean, you're kind of out of time to find an elite coach and GM. Stott should have been gone a long time ago. Neil Olshey should have been gone a long time ago. And you should have ran through your next GM and coach by now. And if they didn't work, we should be on our 3rd coach in Damian Lillard's tenure here, not his 2nd. He's in his 11th year. He's made the Western Conference Finals once, and this is his first legitimate season with a 2nd coach. We waited too long in the past to try and find that elite duo between a coach and a GM.
And he's got 2 20-point per game scorers on the team, and they still can't win.
Yeah. The problem is you can't like recycle coaches every year because you'll never be able to find an elite coach that way because you got to give them some leash. But the problem is that we ran out of time. You know what I mean? Like now it's like Chauncey better be that guy. Cronin better be that guy. If not, with Dame being 32, I mean, I don't really know where you go. But also, here's the thing. Given the contracts given to both guys, I don't know what Cronin's on, but Chauncey still has enough tenure left on his contract. I don't see there's any way that he's not back next year. And we used to say that all the time with Stotts because they love to give these coaches these long contracts when things can change in an instant if you don't have an elite coach. Don't understand that.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of GMs should question things like Isaiah Joe gets cut from the Philadelphia 76ers, clears waivers. No one picked him up off waivers. Anyone could have signed him. Now he's shooting like 45% from 3 and playing good defense for the Oklahoma City Thunder and has been a difference maker for them off the bench. Like what team could not use a mid 40% 3-point shooter who isn't like a complete question mark on defense? Like, and that could have been any team could have had him. And it's like you mentioned, teams that find those guys, those are the teams that win. If you instead, sign, injured players and players that aren't extremely helpful or limited, even in best case scenario, then you kind of cap the ceiling of the team, in my opinion.
Yep, shout out to Monty with a $5 donut. Says, y'all would be better GMs, but we'd have nothing but Gonzaga players. Crying face emojis. Man, Damani, you were there on our very first stream where I was begging the Blazers to sign Lou Dort after he went undrafted. Okay, you should know better than that. And honestly, this year in my bracket, I'm probably choosing Gonzaga to lose in the first round because I don't trust that team at all. So, trust me, I'm not afraid to say no to a Gonzaga Bulldog draft-wise or, be against them. I've said it on the record multiple times. I would never touch Drew Timme with a draft pick, and I love the dude, but he's not an NBA player. So, a lot of people, I know you're just joking with me, a lot of people always say I'm biased. I think I do a pretty good job of not being biased.
Well, I'd like to ask why I'm catching a stray. I'm not.
Because I would overpower you, I think is what he's saying.
Gonzaga players on my team.
Yeah.
Screw Gun. No,
anyway. Let's finish the interview.
You just said that, in addition to like a lot of this stuff, you said that you also need to get better, and obviously a lot of this is experience for everybody. Like, is there something that you think you look at like with your own, adjustments or stuff that you do in game that you think needs to get better, like specifically?
No, I think everything, to be honest with you. I'm also one that's not very experienced. So just like we're patient with them in the locker room, I'm patient with myself. So I think everything, I need to get better at. But no matter what happens, I'm always going to come up here and raise my hand first. I'm always going to look myself in the mirror first and foremost and say, dang, what could I have done better? How could I have prepared my guys for the third quarter better? And no matter what I said in there, when we had those droughts, I'm always going to come in here and raise my hand and say, I got to get better, because that's just the type of leader that I am.
Have you and Joe begun brainstorming or even addressing the upcoming deadline and get your thoughts out in the open?
Joe and I talk often. Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, that is the only thing that gives me hope, Eric, is that I think he's not completely set in his ways. And also, I think he does try things. Whereas, like, in the past, it was like we had a coach that was like, he was going to coach his way. It was going to be drop scheme. It was going to be a stagnant offense no matter what. He wasn't going to try anything else. So it was frustrating because it's like, you're not even trying to get us out of mediocrity, right? Whereas with Chauncey, I don't think that's the case. I do believe him when he says he's willing to look in the mirror and say, like, what could I do better, that sort of thing. Like, we never heard Terry Stotts talk like that, did we? So that's the one thing that gives me hope and why I've had more patience with him is that I think there's a chance that he can improve upon things. And I also don't think it's quite as clearly some of his faults as other people do for certain things that are wrong with this team. So that is why I'm still not completely out on Chauncey like a ton of other fans are. Because that's the thing.
Yeah,
if he had been a coach for 10 years and it had been like this for 10 years, then that'd be something different. It's his first legitimate season. You know what I mean? And he's right. He is the inexperienced one. So sometimes it takes coaches some time to figure out how they want to coach and what they want to do and, you know, how to coach at a high level. Sometimes you get a guy like Steve Kerr that comes in and is an elite coach right away, you know? Anyway, are you you?
Oh, I thought you were gonna play the rest of the interview. Was
The
that
interview's
it?
done. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was
sorry.
like,
I didn't know.
I was like,
Well, I
waiting for you to say
I have to go
something.
back and forth between muting.
Yeah,
and
no,
YouTube
I
now,
know.
So, sorry.
No, you're fine. That was funny. So yeah. Anyway, I don't know. We're gonna listen to the other interviews, but I don't even feel like it anymore. We're already 2 hours in somehow. This stream has flown. Dame interview is kind of spicy. Okay, fine. We'll watch Dame, then we're in the stream. All right.
He gets mad at the end, I guess.
Does he?
Yeah, what happened for you guys?
That'll be interesting. Let's hear it.
You know, I just think we didn't sustain the level of focus and energy that we had in that second quarter. You know, I think it was they pretty much dominated the first quarter. We dominated second quarter, and then, you know, I think in their locker room they saying we got to have a big start to the third, and you know we did it in the first quarter, and they came out and they just, you know, picked up the pressure, picked up the aggressiveness, and you know, it was almost like we just expected them to lay down, you know, and you know, I think at the start of the quarter they were trying to be aggressive, but you know, they were definitely feeling it out. Like, you know, if this keeps going, we could have got them to just, you know, maybe play something halfway through the third or play the third and then be done with it if we would have kept doing what we had been doing, but we didn't. And, you know, they got some momentum and they cut it to you know, I think it got to about 16 or 14 or something like that in the third quarter, and they started to believe, and we just didn't handle it well. And, you know, they just kept picking it up more and more and more, and was able to, you know, obviously come back and take the game.
Beyond the Lakers' intensity, what changed for you guys offensively to go from being in that group to having that kind of a run into the third quarter? Because you guys were getting what you wanted on multiple levels, and then it all went away.
I think in the first half we was getting stops. You know, we had some success with our zone. We weren't taking the ball out the net, jumping it in. It was like coming off the rim, getting deflections. You know, we were rebounding the ball, and we were just pushing it out. You know, they're a team that likes to play in transition. They like to play with pace, and most of the time, teams that prefer that and that do that well, they don't get back well. And I think in the first half, we kept putting them in that position where we were on a string defensively in that second quarter. We rebounded well out of it, and, you know, once we were pushing it back at them, they just, you know, we had them out of sorts, and we was getting to the rim, we was getting threes, you know, and it was all quality possessions because we weren't taking the ball out of the net as much. And I think in that third quarter, you know, they pretty much came out and they, you know, they got off to a better start than we did. They built some confidence, and, you know, they stuck to that. You know, they just kept getting more and more aggressive.
Dane, big picture, I don't think what's happening is like what you envisioned or what you want. Do you see it as an easy fix or something you just need to ride out and have patience?
I mean, nothing is ever an easy fix. You know, I don't think anything is ever just an easy fix in the NBA. You know, a lot of things have to be lined up. A lot of things have to align. You know, whether that's chemistry, you know, pieces fitting together, guys caring. You know how much it matters. So I don't ever think it's just like, oh, let's do this and then you fix all your problems. You know, it's especially in how we're struggling right now is usually a little bit deeper than that. You know, you got to try to find some solutions. You know, what could we do better? You know, maybe you run a list down of like, where are we struggling? Why are we bleeding like this? You know what I mean? And then you try to figure out your way out of it. But it's tough. I don't know how else to describe it. It's definitely not how I saw things happening. I think the bright side of it is it seems like if you win 3 games in a row, you in the mix with everybody. So the way I'm looking at it is it's a lot of teams that didn't see the season going this way. But like I said last time, the scary thing is a lot of those teams are they putting wins together, and they're playing better basketball. And for us, we had the 2 wins against Dallas, and then, we've dropped. We lose the Orlando game. We lose the other night. We lose this one. So, it's just tough.
You mentioned there's a lot of things you have to look at,
Yeah.
and then chemistry and carrying.
Yeah.
How would you say you guys are on chemistry and carrying?
I think our chemistry is pretty good. I think just when you talk about on the floor, when we're on the floor, our chemistry and how well we read each other and, how we play off of each other, I think it's been good, but the teams that are winning a lot of games, they're able to sustain it and do it all the time and do it at different parts of the game. When things are going bad, they're able to find things like, okay, I need to get in the pocket right here, make sure, you space in the corner. We can kind of direct traffic ourselves and govern ourselves and figure it out, when you're that connected, you can figure it out while you're in a hit, while the team is on the run. You can communicate amongst yourselves and, just kind of regain control of the game. And I think for us right now, offensively and defensively, we just don't have that all the time. We look into the sideline and, looking for direction. And I think when we can get to the point where we can just, govern ourselves and figure things out for ourselves while we're in the middle of it sometimes, I think that would help us.
I know you've always been sensitive about trading deadline because you
Yeah.
don't want to say, hey, I want to dictate what
Yeah.
goes on in these guys' lives. But still, you've also been very vocal about, I want to win.
Yeah.
And obviously your window is shrinking.
Yeah.
Are you hoping or anticipating that you guys will be active in the next couple of weeks?
I want us to be in the best position to win. My job is to play point guard and to be prepared and go out there and do what I do. And everybody has a job. And right now we're not winning. Right now we haven't been consistent. But it's not my job to say who goes where or what needs to happen as far as the roster. That's not my job. But what I will say is right now we're not getting it done. So I do want to win. I don't think it's no secret that I want to win, and I think we gotta do whatever we have to do to be in a position to win. I think that's the point of us showing up is to give ourselves the best chance to win. So I'm all for whatever that means.
To get to where you're talking about, seems like a lot of moving parts and things that have to come together, and that requires a certain amount of patience. How much more patience do you have?
I'm confused at why y'all asking me these questions right now, honestly. I respect it, but, the bottom line is, we at the midway point of the season, and we struggling right now. We not playing really well. We've been in a lot of these games. None of these games are just like we getting blown away. So I think as far as basketball goes, there are things we can do to be better, and we win some of these games. But I think I watch a lot of NBA games. I'm looking around the league, and there's maybe 1 or 2 teams that when I watch them, I'm like, man, that's a dangerous team. But I'm not just looking around like nobody can be beat. So, I think for people that are just on the outside looking in, the problems, the struggles that we've had are obvious. But I don't think it's fair for y'all to be asking me these questions right now. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that's kind of a weak move. Our team is struggling, and I've been transparent about our struggles and stuff that we could do better. But y'all putting me in a position to answer questions that I don't think is cool, man.
Well, because a lot of this organization operates on your timeline.
I understand that. No, I understand that, but there's people that you can ask those questions too. You know what I mean? And even if it is on me or whatever, they could answer your questions. So even if they did ask me a question and I gave them my opinion, You know, I'm sure they're going to give you whatever answer that they give you based on what reality is. But I'm saying I don't think it's cool for y'all to be putting me in that position, you know, especially after a tough loss. We in a tough stretch. Like, that ain't cool. You know what I mean? And I answer all y'all questions. And, you know, y'all, that's, to me, that feels like just a lack of respect to put me in that position. But
It sounds like,
Last one, guys.
it sounds like because of the close game, because you guys feel like you're right there, you still feel confident in this group that you guys can dig yourself out of this hole.
I mean, I mean, y'all know I'm gonna always feel confident about coming out of it, but I also think, you know, you can be right there for 10 more games. You know, you can be saying that for 20 more games. We right there, you know. But at the end of the day, you got to come out on the other side. You know, you rather learn in wins. You want to learn in games that you win. So we are right there. You know what I'm saying? We was up 25 points. You know, but then that part about staying sharp and finishing games, we weren't able to do, and it led to a loss. So, I mean, it's a lot of teams that can say we right there, you know, but you can still continue to lose games until you just decide to be there, you know. And right now, we not there.
Anyway, okay, well. What'd you think about that?
I thought it was interesting, his reaction. I mean, he obviously hates Quick. I mean, there's some beef there going back for a couple years now. But yeah, I mean, how's he supposed to answer that question? You know, like, he doesn't want to say this team is.
What the question was? What was the question again?
Well, they basically said the trade deadline's coming up. Do you think they should trade people, or do you think they should just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So like, I mean, what's he supposed to say? Like, he's the reason why he's mad is because he said several times that he doesn't want to be the person that is responsible for, like, whether a family has to move or gets traded or whatever. And so, like, he feels like he's earned the respect not to have that question asked of him and put him in the position to have to say that again. So I completely agree with him there. I mean, I don't think the question's unfair or whatever. Like, ask it if you want to, but I don't think the response is unfair either.
Yeah, I agree. Well said. Yeah, like, there's a difference between asking Chauncey why he puts Grant on, you know, or asking Chauncey about Grant's screen navigation. Those are the types of questions I'd like to hear instead of the kind of cliche stuff we hear all the time that gets cliche answers. But that's different than, you know, asking Dame an impossible to answer question, especially when you know that he's not going to answer the question the way you're asking it. So, these guys know Dame or should know Dame. I mean, we know Dame. I've never talked to him, and we know Dame well enough to know he's not going to answer that.
Well, I mean, every fiber of his being has told us that he's loyal to Portland and he wants to win here, and he doesn't care about the ups and downs, that he's in it through thick and thin. And then to be asked, like, how patient are you with this team right now? You know what I mean? Like he's going to ask out or something at the trade deadline. I think that's got to be frustrating for him to like from the local media to deal with that. Like, he understands from that he's always going to get that question asked from national media, but I think he felt kind of, he did feel disrespected because the local media hasn't really had to ask him or had asked him those kind of questions that they should know the answer to already. So I think that's why he was frustrated.
Yep, makes sense. Anyway, anything else for this post-game show?
Yeah, just hope they come out and play better tomorrow. Like, it's one of those things where is it going to snowball and we're just going to keep being in a funk, or are they going to at some point use this as a rallying cry and someone's going to put their foot down and and do something about it. Like I'm sick of these post game press conferences where like the mindset of the team is being questioned. Like let's just like at some point they need to stop playing with this mindset and get better, or just like quit saying it could happen, because like I mean it's got to start pretty soon here or it's going to be too late.
I have a feeling they're going to come out well tomorrow against the Spurs. Just a feeling. After this tough of a loss, we talk about teams like with bad losses, and then then we play them and they beat us, right? I think we're that team tomorrow. I think we'll win tomorrow. We'll see. The Spurs, obviously, if we're going up against a good team, I wouldn't be that confident, but it's the Spurs. Although, can't take this team lightly, but given how bad we've struggled, I don't think we will, because we're kind of one of those teams right now. And, I think we will, I think we'll figure it out, and at least tomorrow, and see where that goes. I mean, it's just wait and see mode for this freaking team. See how bad it can get, I guess.
Umar says it might be good that we have a back-to-back tomorrow. Yeah. When you're not playing well, I think I don't know, it can go both ways because like it can still, tonight could linger into tomorrow. They could be feeling down and instead, and like, still in their feelings about tonight, and then it costs them a game tomorrow night. Or they could, like I said, just be like, okay, new game tomorrow. Like, let's get this sour taste out of our mouth. Let's like just put our foot down and kill a team and execute well and just be on the top of our game for 48 minutes and not have to deal with this BS. So I think I mean, I hate to be like dramatic about it or whatever, but how they respond tomorrow could be huge for the rest of the season moving forward, whether they're able to find their way out of this funk or not.
If they lose tomorrow, I have no faith left. Tomorrow is at this point the biggest game of the year, man. I mean,
that's why I was like, no, when you were saying we should go 5-1 on this.
I mean, we should have.
I know.
I mean, we should have won tonight, and we should win tomorrow, and we should win the next game. Because the next game is what? Utah? We have the talent to win these games, man. I don't know. This team's in a mental funk, though, and mentality is a big thing in sports, and this team just doesn't have the right mentality right now for whatever reason. So we'll see if they can flip a switch or whatever, but Trevor says the winning starts when Naz's minutes restriction is lifted. Well,
maybe.
I'd say sure, but Nas, we weren't winning the minutes that Nas was in, so not saying it's his fault.
First half we were.
Nas was good today. Nas was good today. But
first half he was excellent. Second half
he was bad.
Up and down. Yeah.
But I would like to see him play a little bit more. Sharp play a little less. Sharp's tough right now. We'll have more coverage tomorrow. Second channel will stream at 3:30 p.m. Blazers Uprise live, and then we'll have a post-game show after the Blazers take on the Spurs. So 2 streams tomorrow. Come check them out. With that being said, anything else?
No. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Yep, this has been the Blazers Uprise post-game show presented by Bet Online. Promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, 50% rewards. We're out of here. We'll catch you tomorrow with those 2 streams. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers!